Fix your tight hip flexors without stretching. I'm gonna show you in this video the best exercises you could do. What's up guys, this is Dr. Nick. In today's video, we're gonna be going over how you could fix hip flexor tightness without stretching. So you'll hear common things. If you're sitting all day, your hip flexors get super tight and you gotta stretch them out. Yeah, could be, but let's address it a little bit differently and look at it from a strength perspective. So first we have to understand where the hip flexors are. So the hip flexors, there's a couple components to it. So you have parts that originate on the lumbar spine that go and attach to the femur bone, and then you have parts that go into the ilium or the iliacus and go into the femur. And it's responsible for bringing your hip up into hip flexion. And there's other muscles that contribute to hip flexion, but primarily the focus is always on these two ones, the psoas muscle, which is composed of two muscles that go into the femur bone. So let's address this a little bit differently. Now, if you're always stretching it out and you're not getting any results, it could be a disguise as being stiff and tight because it's lacking stability or strength. So by stretching it out all the time, you might be potentially just making the problem worse and not addressing it. So we have to look at it from a strength perspective and give some stability to this region to see how that has an effect on it. So now when we're addressing the hip flexor complex from a strength perspective, we want to look at both ends of the spectrum, a shortened position and a lengthening position. We always tend to function and focus on mid ranges of motion, but we got to look at the end spectrums that will help really get some specific work. So first we're going to work on the shortened position. So you're going to elevate your leg on a box that if you're elevated on whatever you're on, when you lift off, you're not lifting off very far and it's hard. So for an example, if I'm on a lower box, say my foot's here, and I'm lifting off drastically and there's a large gap, you know you already own that range of motion. You want to work on your end ranges of motion. So in this case, I'll just be using this for demonstration. Now, also keep in mind, when you go to lift up like this, you want to think about your knee going straight towards your chest to get put onto the box versus doing this type of thing where you're kind of going out to the side or your knees splaying out to get up. That's a compensation. You're circumventing around a hip flexor strength issue like that. So instead of going straight up, you just are like this to get up. That's a strength issue right there. You got to work in that range of motion. So in this case, we're up here like this. You can hold on to support if you need to, pole, stall bars, anything that will support you. But the idea is we're staying up nice and tall. You want to think a mind-body connection of using your hip flexors to bring your knee up towards the ceiling really high and just hold that for an isometric hold right there. 3 seconds, 2, 1, and then back down. What this is doing is creating this end range strength to the hip flexor. So I'm using all of my hip flexors to lift my knee up. I have a gap, just an inch or so, and I come back down. So again, hold on to support if you need to get more bias to this area while you're doing this exercise. But the idea is not to just lift up, down, and not think through it. You want to hold more time under tension to get activation to it. And also go higher and higher to challenge yourself in those ranges of motion and the demand to the hip flexors. So nice and tall, lift up, hold, really feeling my hip flexors work, and then come back down. You will also feel the downside leg working too to stabilize throughout it. Hence why holding on for a little bit of support will offload that leg from working so much and really put more focus to the hip flexors in that end range shortened position. Hey, real quick, if you're liking this content, I would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It really helps out with my channel and I really do appreciate it. All right, back to the content. Now we have to strengthen it on a lengthening position. So we're gonna be sitting up on a bench. This is just for an anchor, the dumbbell. From here, we're gonna be using our hip flexors and our core to rock ourselves backwards nice and slow, which will elongate or essentially work the psoas muscle in a lengthening position. So it's lengthening and building strength. So from here, I stay tight in my core. I think about using my hip flexor region to control myself back. Once I get to the end, I prop myself back up. And I'm thinking, having that mind-body connection to really use my hip flexors to do the job. So I can even push up a little bit onto the anchor point to really bias this region. So I push up a little bit, I slowly rock, really feeling this work, and then I come back down. Now, if this is too hard to perform just like this, you could hold on to a little bit of assistance as you do this, whatever modification you need. But the idea is we're elongating that hip flexor muscle to work in a lengthening position. So this is strength in the complete opposite spectrum of length versus the shortened position where we're doing the hip flexion liftoffs. So there you go. I hope this video gave you some insight on understanding the perspective that you might have to take if you've been hanging out on stretches all day and not making any of the results that you want from a mobility standpoint to the hip flexors. It might be a hidden strength issue. In this video, we focused it on a shortened position and a lengthened position. So hopefully this gave you some value. And if it did, you gained value from this video and you like the content, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, like this video, turn on your post notifications so you never miss a video when I put it out. Also, if you want to learn more about some particular issues that you potentially have going on, aches and pains, flexibility issues that are just getting in the way of things that you love to do, love working out, love staying fit, biking, hiking, whatever the case is, and you have issues that are going on that you want to learn a little bit more about what you could do to solve these issues, there's a link below that you can click to schedule a free discovery call with me or one of my team members to understand a little bit more about kind of what's going on and see what we could actually do to actually help you get started in the right direction. If you're interested in learning more about how that would work, click the link below, schedule the call, and let's chat. This is Dr. Nick. I'll talk to you next time.